I'm Sonia Baghdady, and you're watching Advocate Now. Here are some of our favorite moments from last month's episodes. Well, Dr. Goodwin, we tend to talk a lot about plastic surgery trends and the popularity surrounding such procedures, but we rarely look at the motivation behind them. So what inspired you to dive into that in your new book?
Well, as a psychologist, I see people who are either preparing for or recovering from a cosmetic procedure on occasion. And when you're doing goal-directed psychotherapy, like what I do, cognitive behavioral therapy, sometimes called solution-focused therapy, you integrate methods that are drawn from different areas, whatever's going to help the client. And what I do, my type of integrative cognitive behavioral therapy, integrates a lot of ideas and methods drawn from Eastern traditions like Buddhism, so meditation and mindfulness. So the core of those practices is compassion, and that includes self-compassion. And what I've found is a lot of people who are preparing for cosmetic procedures, and there are a lot of those people. There are 30 million procedures that are going to be performed this year, and 20 million in the US. So all around the world, people are embracing this movement toward changing themselves in certain ways that they want to. The problem is a lot of those people aren't treating themselves very well in the process. This book really isn't a cookbook. You know, cookbook gives you the recipe. The doctor's going to give you the recipe. The doctor's going to tell you what they want you to do. The important thing that a lot of people don't realize is that what you do before the procedure and after the procedure has a direct impact on the outcome.
Yeah, there are self-help resources in the book, which is called Saving Face, by the way. There are exercises involving introspection where you encourage people to really look at their motivation and also test to help them work on their self-worth, which I think is so important. But why do you think it's important to create that foundation internally before jumping into a more superficial solution?
There are so many things that influence how we feel about the way we look. You know, the self-test you're talking about, there's a body image concerns test, which is about, essentially, it's a screener for body dysmorphic disorder symptoms. I don't help you diagnose yourself in the book, but I do have tests like that that help you get a sense of whether there are some vulnerabilities you're walking around with that may affect how prepared you are to make good decisions for yourself that are taking care of yourself in the process before and after the procedure. So the body concerns test is one. The self-consciousness measure is another. And that's related, but it's slightly different. That integrates more of this idea that, you know, we're so influenced a lot of the time by other people, you know, on social media or in our community, who are always, even with good intentions, giving us feedback about, boy, you look great today. You know, that's a nice thing, but it's also letting you know people are watching, you know? And so that test is really about helping you assess your sense of independence. Any good self-help book written by a psychologist should be empowering. And that's what this is about. It's not about telling people whether they can or can't have a cosmetic procedure. It's about helping a person assess, are you ready to do that right now? So there's also a mirror test. After a cosmetic procedure, you got to be monitoring your progress. And the doctor's going to be relying on you to notice if the swelling is normal or if the bruising is normal or whatever you have. Some people can't do that. So there's a test that helps the reader assess, are they one of those people? Doesn't mean they can't have the procedure. It just means they should probably have someone around after the procedure that will be helping them. There's nothing wrong with covering your mirrors for a little while. There's another test that, what's the other test? Oh, the P test, which is about prickliness. You know, some people are kind of like roses. They're very delicate, and they also have prickers. And they have prickers because they're delicate. And there are reasons for that. For instance, some people who have been traumatized develop a kind of prickly way of being. And that's understandable, and we don't want to shame them for that. But if you're too prickly, you're much more likely to be too demanding. And if you're too demanding with a procedure that at its core is going to produce a result that is subjective, you know, most outcomes are not, you know, clearly good or clearly bad. You know, you have some choice in how you feel about the outcome. And some people are way too critical of themselves and other people to be evaluating that after the procedure. So it doesn't mean you can't get there, but the book helps you to get there.
Well, Hannah, you're a content creator, but you've carved out your own path in the influencing industry by tackling a unique topic, salary transparency. How did all of that start, and what made you want to pursue a career dedicated to that topic?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Sonia. I think the number one thing was really finding out I was underpaid in my own career. Before doing this, before being a content creator, I used to be a data analyst, and back in the day, I found out that I was underpaid about $20,000 to $25,000 in my role just because of a lack of transparency. And the more I thought about it, I fixed my situation. I looked for a new job. I got my fair market rate, but that didn't solve the problems that are still every single day people are encountering in the system. And so the best way I could think to fix it was to go on the street, ask strangers this really taboo question, but to prove that there's value in transparency and to encourage others to see it as well. And hopefully that will make some change in the system that we've got right now.
Yeah, and only 20 states have paid transparency laws. Can you break down what that means for employees across the country?
Yeah, so pay transparency laws are a mix of a couple different things. Like there's like salary transparency clauses, which are specific that a company, with more than 6 employees or so has to list a minimum and maximum salary range in their job description. And, that varies based on the state that you're in. And so I always tell people, check your state's laws because each state is different. Some have salary history bans that prevent employers from asking about your prior salary, which is a really beneficial ban because that salary, if you're interviewing for a new job and they ask for your previous salary, if you were underpaid before, they're going to keep you at that bottom rate. And so it's really hard to catch up. And so there's a reason these laws exist, and hopefully we can get them to all 50 states soon.
Well, you mentioned, talking to people about how much they make. It can definitely feel uncomfortable talking about pay with coworkers, almost like you're doing something wrong. But just to clear things up for people, it is illegal for companies to prohibit employees from talking about wages, right?
Absolutely. So per the National Labor Relations Act, unless you are a farmer, a railroad worker, or a government employee, basically, if you are a private employee, you are protected under the NLRA, which means that you have the right to discuss your salary with your colleagues. The only stipulation is that you should not be sharing other people's salaries with other people. Only talk about your own and use that as an entry point to have these conversations with your colleague and invite them to share their own salary as well with you.
Well, I want to talk about your series. It's called Salary Transparent Street on Instagram, and it promotes salary transparency. When you first created this series, did you feel uncomfortable asking random people what they make, or has that changed over time?
Definitely. People would not guess, but I'm actually very shy and introverted. And I think I just had the will of God in me one day. And I was like, I'm going to go do this because I see the value and someone has to. And I'm so glad I did. Every time I go out, it is still kind of scary. And I always try to approach people that look the friendliest, which is my cop out. But it's important, and whenever I have the conversations with people, my favorite thing is, they're always a little like, what are they asking me? Like, why are they asking me this? And then when they walk away, they're so happy that someone asked them about their work. And no matter what you make, I think what I see in all my interviews is people are proud of what they do to make a living. And it's important to talk about it.
I'm Sonia Baghdady. Thanks for watching and advocating. For more stories and content like this, visit advocate.com and advocatechannel.com.